Have you ever noticed that the very moment you open your eyes in the morning, your mind is already racing? Maybe it's a message you haven't replied to, something unfinished from yesterday, or a vague worry about what might happen today. And before you've even taken a deep breath or given thanks for simply waking up, you're already pulled into the day like you're in a race, with no idea where the finish line is. But here's the thing. The very first words you whisper to yourself each morning, they plant the seed for how the rest of your day will unfold. If your day starts in a rush, with tension and noise, your mind will ride that wave all day long. But if your morning begins with stillness, with one simple, grounding reminder, your entire energy shifts. In Buddhism, the morning isn't just the time we wake up. It's a doorway, a chance to return to yourself, to reset your heart, and come home to your awareness. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need to go on a retreat, meditate for hours, or chant pages of scripture. Sometimes, all it takes is a few quiet words spoken softly to yourself to nourish a more peaceful day. Because one single sentence, said at the right moment, can completely change the direction of your inner world. So, before the world out there grabs your attention, give yourself a few precious minutes to turn inward. These are the 6 things to gently remind yourself each morning. Not just affirmations, but seeds of mindfulness planted deep in your heart. Each one is like a quiet hand guiding you back to your calm, steady self. 1. I will treat myself with kindness, not judgment. It's strange, but true. So many people can forgive everyone else, but can't be gentle with themselves. How many times has a small mistake, a careless word, or an unnamed fear turned into a reason for your own mind to beat you up? I should have done better. What's wrong with me? No one understands me because I'm not good enough. These words don't come from the outside. They echo inside your own heart. And sometimes they hurt even more than what anyone else could say. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us of this simple truth. Compassion doesn't begin with others. It begins with you. If you can't hold your own pain with tenderness, how can you truly touch the suffering of someone else? I remember a woman who once came to the monastery in Northern California, eyes red with tears. She said, "I don't understand. I'm so kind to others. But every time I make a mistake, I feel horrible. I can't forgive myself." We didn't talk much. I simply handed her a small mirror and said, "Look at yourself and say these words. I'm still learning, and I deserve to be gentle with myself." She stayed silent for a long time. Then tears came again, but this time, they were tears of release. Because some wounds don't need anyone else to heal them. They just need us to stop hurting ourselves. The Buddha taught, all beings have Buddha nature. Even in your missteps, the seed of light remains. So when that voice of self-criticism rises, instead of trying to silence it or pretend it's not there, choose a different response, one rooted in compassion. Not to excuse everything, but to nourish growth. Not to blame circumstances, but to remember, you don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love and understanding. I once walked alongside a retired soldier who carried deep guilt from the war. Every morning, he woke up feeling haunted, until one day, he did something that seemed small. He sat quietly, placed his hand over his chest and said, "I once acted out of fear, but now I choose to walk forward with understanding." Just those few words spoken each day shifted how he saw himself. Eventually, he wrote letters of apology, shared his story with young people, and became a living example of how healing begins with truth and compassion. We don't need to wait until we're flawless to be lovable. Kindness begins the moment we acknowledge that we are human strong on some days and tender on others. And for anyone who grew up in a harsh environment where performance mattered more than peace, Learning to be gentle with yourself might not come easy, but even so, every morning, with just a few mindful breaths and a soft whisper to your own heart, you open a different door. A door that leads to understanding instead of judgment, to compassion instead of criticism. One small practice I often share with meditation students is this. When you wake up before you reach for anything, place your hand gently over your heart. Close your eyes for just a moment and say, "Today I choose to treat myself with compassion. I am still learning, and that is enough." You don't need to get everything right. You don't need to always be cheerful or put together. Just remember, a heart treated kindly from within becomes a heart that can heal, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. And it's from that very foundation of gentleness that we can move on to the next practice. A profound truth for any soul walking the path. I am here. I am alive. And this moment is enough. So let's pause here and take one more step into that sacred presence, where peace begins not with changing everything, but with simply being here. 2. I am here. I am alive. This moment is enough. There's a habit most of us fall into starting the morning like it's a race. The alarm blares, eyes barely open, the phone's already in hand. And before we've even taken our first conscious breath, the mind is rushing thinking about what didn't get done yesterday, or stressing about what might go wrong today. And so, a new day begins not with presence, not with life, but with absence. The body's here, but the mind? It's already off at that 10 a.m. meeting. The hands are making coffee, but the head's busy worrying about unpaid bills, unanswered messages, or an awkward conversation left hanging. Not truly living, just continuing to move. But the Buddha taught something beautifully simple. The present moment is the only place real life ever happens. Not in the past, not in the future, but right here where your feet touch the floor, where the breath gently rises, where your heartbeat quietly reminds you you're still alive. And sometimes, all it takes to return is one simple phrase, I am here, I am alive, this moment is enough. I once met a middle-aged man at a morning meditation retreat. He was a busy Gairan, his own company, had 2 kids, back-to-back meetings. When asked, when was the last time you felt truly at peace? He paused for a long moment, then said softly, probably 12 years ago, fishing with my dad, no phones, just the wind, the water, and the 2 of us, sitting quietly. The whole room went still, not because his answer was sad, but because everyone recognized themselves in it. It was a quiet reminder. Peace isn't about having everything done. It's about being fully present in the moment we're living. How many beautiful mornings have passed without anyone noticing? The sunlight slipping through the window, birdsong in the yard, that cool touch of the floor beneath your feet, all whispering, "Good morning. You're alive." But if we don't pause, we don't hear it. There's a simple yet powerful practice I often share in meditation. When you first wake up, don't rush out of bed. Stay still for a few seconds. Feel your breath. Place one hand over your heart and whisper gently to yourself, I am here. I am alive. This moment is enough. Nothing grand is required. No need to fix yesterday. No need to control tomorrow. Just this breath, just this heartbeat. That's where life is happening. People often think, I'll find peace once I get the house, the promotion, the savings account. But the Dharma path of awakening doesn't go that way. The Buddha never promised a perfect future. He simply pointed the way home back to ourselves. Not toward achievement, but toward presence. One young monk once asked me, how do I know if I'm walking the right path? And I said, If you can sit down, exhale softly, and feel that this moment is enough, then you're walking the right path. It's not mystical. It's not complicated. It's just showing up for this one precious moment. Some people only realize this after a deep loss, a health scare, the death of a loved one, a sudden accident. Then they see clearly. Life isn't about titles, salaries, or likes on a screen. Life is being able to walk without pain, to see the sky without a hospital window between you and it, to hear the laughter of someone you love, even if just for a fleeting moment. So when someone says, "This moment is enough," they're not settling. They're making a bold declaration. I see the value of being alive now. And when the mind is rooted in the present, something beautiful begins to happen. The tasks still get done, the goals are still there, but the pressure softens. The urgency fades. You're no longer driven by anxiety. You're carried by awareness. So each morning, before the outside world pulls your mind in every direction, pause and say, "I am here. I am alive. This moment is enough." That's where peace begins. That's where healing quietly starts to grow. From this space of presence, we step into the day, not to control everything, but to fully experience it. And the more we nourish this awareness, the more we're ready for what comes next, including one of the most important lessons on the path. True peace doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from how steady we remain within it. Let's take that next step together. 3. Today, let me be the cause of peace. There's something many people get wrong about peace. They think it's a destination, some final state you reach only when everything in life is smooth, when people around you are kind, when the world stops being chaotic. But according to the Dharma, peace isn't something we wait for, it's something we choose. It's a way of being chosen in each thought, each word, and each action we take. And more importantly, peace is not meant to be kept just for ourselves. I remember a misty autumn morning in Seattle. There was rain, fog, and a fragile older woman struggling with groceries spilled at her feet. People passed by rushing to work, eyes on their phones, each with their own reason. But one young man stopped. He didn't say much. He simply knelt down and picked up her things. When she looked up, he smiled and walked away like it was no big deal. But I believe that moment shifted something in her heart, and maybe in his too. It was a small act, yet it moved something big. Not in the outside world, but in the hearts of those involved. In Buddhism, there's a word I love, deeply metta. It means loving, kindness, or unconditional goodwill. And metta doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It can begin with one quiet intention at the start of your day. Today, may I be a cause of peace. Not a preacher, not someone telling others how to live. Just someone who quietly brings light like a small lamp in the dark. Not blinding, but warm enough to comfort. A student once asked me, "Teacher, I live a quiet life. I'm kind, but I don't do anything big. Does it still matter?" I smiled and told her a story about a Zen master who lived on a quiet mountain. Every morning, he walked down to the market. He didn't speak much. He just folded his hands and gently bowed to each person he passed. Day after day, year after year, no one really knew who he was. But the vendors would say, "When he walks by, my heart settles." He didn't speak peace. He was peace. And sometimes just being that presence is enough to soften even the hardest hearts. We don't need to become bodhisattvas overnight to ease the pain in the world. We just need to begin with simple human gestures. A smile, an unjudging glance, a moment of patience in a line, a pause so someone else can finish their thought. The world may call these things small, but on the path of compassion, they are mighty. This morning, if you pass someone who looks upsetry, offering a gentle smile instead of avoiding them. If someone speaks to you with tension, breathe in and choose not to react right away. If a friend is weary, don't rush to fix them. Just listen. Sometimes, peace is simply showing up without needing anything in return. I remember giving a Dharma talk at a senior care home in Oregon. Afterward, one elderly man came up to me, gently took my hand, and said, "There's someone who comes here every week. They sit with me for 5 minutes. They don't say much, but it reminds me I'm still a person, not just a thing waiting for time to pass." I said nothing, but inside, I felt a quiet stream move through me. That's when I understood. To be a cause of peace doesn't require grand gestures. It only asks that you be there, with a warm heart, and the intention to slow down, so others can breathe too. So each morning, before stepping into the noise of the world, place a hand over your chest and whisper this gentle prayer. Today, may I help ease not add to the heaviness. May I be someone others feel safe around. May I hold peace within me and quietly offer it to the world. Because true peace doesn't come from escaping life. It comes from living it but keeping the light steady inside. And from that light, we move forward to the next truth. A lesson that reminds us, strength isn't in reacting to everything. It's in choosing what not to let in. Let's keep walking. Into the next insight. 4. Nothing outside me can disturb my peace unless I allow it. There's a question I've been asked many times, especially after meditation sessions. Teacher, how can I stay peaceful when everything out there feels chaotic? People are unpredictable, and the world never seems to quiet down. And most of the time, I respond with silence, because sometimes what we need isn't another answer. What we need is to feel deep in our bones that peace doesn't come from a quiet world. It comes from not letting the noise pull us in. A senior Zen monk once told me about his early years, living in a monastery near a busy street in Tokyo. Every single day, morning to night, there were cars honking, people shouting, sirens wailing. He used to wonder, how can I possibly practice in this place? How can anyone find stillness in the middle of this? But one afternoon, in the middle of a particularly loud meditation session, something shifted. He realized it wasn't the world stealing his peace. It was his mind chasing after the noise. That day, he stopped trying to escape the city sounds. He started sitting with them, and every time a car horn blasted, he'd smile gently and say to himself, "That's just a sound." But peace is a choice. In Buddhism, this teaching is clear. The world is impermanent. People change. Situations are unpredictable. But how we respond, that can be trained. Not by pretending everything is fine, not by suppressing emotions, but by developing the kind of awareness that whispers, "You don't have to react to everything." It's like a lake. The surface might ripple in the wind, but if the water runs deep, the bottom stays still. I once worked with a young man who shared that every time someone at work challenged him, he'd explode. Just a few words and his anger would take over. It left him exhausted, and worse, ashamed. In a group session, I invited him to pause whenever tension rose and ask, "Is this really touching my peace? Or just pulling me into reaction?" After a few weeks, he came back and said something quietly profound. "It's not them making me angry. It's Mano yet strong enough to stay centered." And that's the first step back to inner freedom. The Buddha once said, "Like a solid mountain that remains unmoved by the wind, the mind of a true practitioner stays steady through praise and blame, gain and loss, right and wrong. The world may swirl around us, but we don't have to spin with it. We learn to stay quiet when needed, to breathe slower when the heart races, to step back not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because every time we choose not to react, we take back our power." Each morning, before walking out into the noise, try pausing for just 1 minute. Close your eyes, place a hand on your chest, and say softly, "Today, the world might challenge me, but nothing outside can disturb my peace unless I allow it." And the beauty is, if you repeat this often enough, something shifts. Not a hardened toughness, but a quiet strength like bamboo in the wind. A friend of mine, very successful in business, once told me, "I used to get furious over a late email, but now I pause, I breathe, I respond when I'm ready, not just when I'm triggered." And then he said something I'll never forget. "I can't control others, but I can choose how I respond." And that makes me feel free. You see, freedom isn't doing whatever we want. Freedom is the power not to be pulled in by every reaction. And peace? It's not about avoiding the storm. It's about not letting the storm uproot your inner ground. So if something pushes your buttons today, take a breath. Breathe in, feel what's rising. Breathe out, pause before reacting. And ask yourself, do I need to react? Or is there a softer, clearer choice I can make? From that quiet place, we don't walk away from the world. We walk through it with steadiness, with awareness, with the strength that doesn't shout. And when we're no longer being tossed around by the outside world, we can begin to turn inward and rediscover what's always been there. Let's continue together into that next truth. 5. Everything I need is already within me. How many times have we looked out into the world and thought, "I'm not enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough, not peaceful enough, not worthy of happiness yet." And so, life becomes this endless race, chasing after images, chasing standards, chasing someone's approval, as if our worth was something out there, something to earn, not something to remember. But the Buddha taught us a timeless truth-on that's been passed down for generations. All beings carry the seed of Buddhahood, which means you already have within you the seeds of wisdom, of compassion, of patience, and of peace. Not after 10 years of perfect practice, not after fixing every flaw, but right now, even if you're still angry, still afraid, still stumbling. The problem isn't that we're missing something. The problem is we've forgotten. I often picture an old lantern tucked away in storage. Year after year, dust settles over it, and we forget there's a flame inside. Until one day, someone strikes a match and the light returns. Not because it was newly created, but because it was always there. Your heart is like that. You don't need to add anything from the outside to be enough. You just need to come home and gently wipe away the dust of self-doubt, forgetfulness, and unworthiness. I remember a woman during a winter retreat in New Jersey. She said, "I feel so empty sometimes. Even with a good job and a loving family, something still feels missing." I asked her, "Have you ever really listened to what's alive inside you? Not what others say about you, but what your breath is saying, what your heart remembers, even the parts you haven't spoken out loud?" She sat in silence, and then tears. She said that was the first time she realized she had never truly sat with herself fully, quietly, and without judgment. Not everyone finds clarity in a single breath. But if we're willing to stay long enough, if we're patient enough to be still, the inner voice begins to speak again. And often, it starts with one simple line that can calm the storm. Everything I need is already within. I'm not lacking, just not fully aware. I'm not empty, just haven't named what's already here. The Buddha once said, chasing happiness outside yourself is like a thirsty person looking for a stream while turning away from the well right behind them. In our modern lives, we're taught to move fast, but rarely are we taught how to pause. We know how to achieve, but we forget how to simply be with ourselves. And the strange paradox is, the more we chase more, the further we drift from the enough that already lives within us. So here's a small practice I share with my students. Each morning, after meditating or even just after waking up, write down one affirmation, not about what you want to have, but what you already do have. Something like, today I have the patience to listen. I have the compassion to understand. I have the strength to keep going, even at a slow pace. One line a day. In 30 days, you'll have 30 reminders that you've never been lacking. And something amazing happens when someone reconnects with their inner fullness. They stop trying to prove their worth. They begin to live more lightly. And strangely, they give more freely. Not because they have so much, but because they're no longer afraid of losing. From that solid ground, they move through life as someone rich in spirit, not in a hurry to chase more, not worried they're not enough. And a person like that not only lives in peace, but becomes a refuge for those around them. So if today you feel empty, if you feel like you're not good enough, not strong enough, not something enough, pause, breathe, and feel your body still alive. Breathe out and whisper gently to yourself, everything I need is already within me. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You just have to come home. And that is already enough. 6. Grateful for one more day to practice mindfulness. There's something people often only realize after life shakes them awake. A sudden illness, a car accident, the loss of someone they love. And in that moment, they're stunned. I thought I still had time. But the truth is, none of us really knows how many days we've got left. Every morning when we open our eyes, no one taps us on the shoulder and says, congratulations, you've been given one more day to live. No bells, no big announcement. And so many of us just continue on as if waking up is automatic. But the truth is, not everyone got to wake up this morning. Some people took their final breath in their sleep. Some left this world suddenly, with no goodbye. And with them went unfinished plans, unsaid apologies, and dreams left hanging. So when you do open your eyes each morning, that's not just another day. That's a blessing. That's a gift. That's another chance to live with awareness. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful practice called gratitude mindfulness. It means remembering even in the smallest things show precious life really is. Not just being grateful when life is perfect, but especially when it's not. There's an elderly woman I once met who shared her morning ritual. Each day, she'd place her hands together in front of a small garden window and whisper, "Thank you for another day I can still see. Thank you for legs that still carry me outside. Thank you for the chance to learn again how to love." So simple, and yet that simplicity kept her heart from growing bitter, even through life's hardest seasons. Living with awareness doesn't mean life is free of struggle. It means choosing gratitude even in the struggle. Grateful to keep learning, grateful for chances to make things right, grateful for the time we still have to come back home to ourselves. The Buddha said, "To be born as a human is rare. Life itself is fragile. To have this body, this mind, and the karmic fortune to hear the Dharma is already extraordinary. And each breath we take in the morning is one more chance to live as someone awake." I remember visiting a young practitioner in hospice care. He had late-stage cancer, but on the small table next to his bed sat a mala and a slim sutra book. In a soft but steady voice, he told me, "As long as I can still open my eyes, I want to keep practicing, not to heal my body, but so I don't waste whatever time I've got left." His words stayed with me because they reminded me that even in pain, we can still choose to live with gratitude. So we don't have to wait until everything is perfect to be mindful. Mindfulness is the art of living fully in whatever moment we're in, with the heart that's still beating inside us. Tomorrow isn't promised. So the next time you step out of bed, instead of jumping straight into your to-do list, instead of reaching for your phone, just pause. Feel your feet touch the floor. Hear the birds outside your window. Feel the cool morning air on your skin, and gently whisper, "Thank you, life, for one more day to learn, to love, to slow down. Today, I choose to live fully without rushing, without regret. Today, I'm grateful for one more day to practice waking up, because every morning is a new door. We don't know how many more we'll get, but if we treat each one like the only one, even a short life becomes a deep one." From that space of gratitude, we keep walking, not carrying the weight of expectations, but holding the beauty of the present moment close. And when gratitude becomes our morning habit, we'll find we can close each night with peace in our hearts, knowing we didn't just exist, we lived. Now that we've whispered all 6 mindful morning reminders together, maybe you've realized this too. Peace isn't far away. Mindfulness doesn't need something grand. It begins with one breath, one moment of slowing down, one small thought planted in stillness, ready to bloom. Yes, life may still be noisy. People won't always act as we hope. Plans may still fall apart. But if we choose every morning to begin with awareness, to begin with gratitude, to speak with kindness, to believe in ourselves, then whatever happens next, we've already made that day worth living. These 6 morning whispers, they're not magic spells. They're a compass, a quiet light to guide us back to who we really are and where we really want to go. If this message brought you peace or helped you slow down, please consider subscribing to Buddhism Seeds. Click like, share it with someone you care about, and leave a comment below. Which of the 6 reminders touched you most today? Because sometimes one honest share can plant a seed of awakening in someone else's heart. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video. Wishing you a day of calm, clarity, and deep presence.